There's one right there.
I see.
There's one over there. Ooh, look at that one right there. So many bikes. So many bikes. This week is an exciting week. We had this 1988 Haro Sport come in. The bike is in beautiful shape, but the wheels are not straight, they're not round, and the brakes don't work at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this bike working. We're going to true up these wheels, we're going to adjust these brakes, and then we're going to take it for a test ride. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get these wheels off so that we can true up the wheels. And I want to be careful with these old Odyssey pegs, but I've got it's apparently a 24 thread, and thankfully I've got a wrench for that. And what I never really liked about these Odyssey pegs is they're aluminum and they just strip out so easily. Now some people would have an axle nut on there and then they would screw the pegs on afterwards, but of course it makes the axles bend easier doing that, but it kept the wheel from slipping more. So we've got the rear wheel. My gosh, this brake feels horrible. What's going on? Something's wrong with this brake. Wow, I think that the springs are so tight. Oh man, that feels so bad. Maybe they're in there backwards. We'll find out. But that's why it's here, so we can make it better for the customer. So there's one wheel. Watch out for falling tools. There's one wheel. Let's get that front one. Now we're going to be working on getting the wheels right first, because it's hard to set up the brakes if the wheels aren't straight. These front pegs don't feel too good, so I think that the threads are starting to get a little messed up on there. But then again, this front axle is probably a flat slotted axle, and they love to tear up axle nuts. And it is indeed the slotted ones. Okay. Ooh, those bearings are bad. And it's missing the cover. Is the back one missing the cover? All right. Let's true these wheels. Alright, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to unhook the gyro cables here. We're going to cut the brake cable because it's no longer necessary. Where are my cable cutters? There's some. Because we're going to be installing a high quality brake housing that's unmarked. So while this is cut, I'm going to notice the brakes didn't spring open. So these brakes do feel pretty bad, and it's because this brake is too tight. So let's fix that. Now, as you can see on this brake, whenever I pull it in, it returns slowly, and that's because this right here is too tight. So what we're going to do is we're going to get on this brake, this is an old die comp, we're going to get a 13 millimeter cone wrench, and we're going to hold, well, we're going to be turning the back nut clockwise and the front nut counterclockwise, which is going to break them free. So once this is broken free, I'm going to back off on both of them, and you keep doing that until you start feeling just a tiny bit of play in the brake arms. So then we're going to tighten this up a little bit more. We're going to feel for that play. And I don't feel much play in there, so I'm going to kind of hold this front nut, and I'm going to back off on the back nut just a little bit, kind of locking them together, and I'm going to feel for the smallest amount of play. Okay, I think I feel a little bit of play, which means that's perfect. So then I'm going to finish this by tightening the front one just a little bit. We're just trying to make it snug, and if you'll notice, this brake, super springy. Alright, let's keep going. So now that this has been cut and the brake has been adjusted better, we're going to pull this cable and housing through the frame, through the top here. So let's go ahead and pull that through. Alright, now that that's done, let's go ahead and, well, we can pull this stem out, which I think is the best thing to do right now. So let's see, what size is it? Is it a 17? It is. So you want to be careful not to scratch the paint. Okay, and I'm going to unthread the cables from the upper gyro plate. I'm going to slide it through the little cutouts here. That's the old school way of doing it. The newer ones, you could just pull them straight out, but this is the actual old school one, so you cannot do that. I'm going to line up the two slots in the adjustment barrel here, which will allow me to pull the cable out. Apparently they're damaged a little bit, so I have to kind of work it. There we go. So that is out. We're going to pull the stem out, and we're going to replace this. Where's a safe place to put this? All right, next. Should be a 30 millimeter, which it is. We're going to see if we can break this top one free. Figured it wasn't super tight. We're going to remove this top plate. We're going to remove the cables from the cradle on the gyro itself, which allows me to take it off. Then we're going to remove the lower plate. Well, we're removing the cables from the lower plate. Going through the slots if we can. All right. Now we need to go ahead and unthread the headset race. Ooh, that cup should not be coming out like it is. I sense movement in that plate. Alright, so we've got this out. Looks like we're going to need to be cleaning up these bearings because they are nasty. Alright, this cup should be pressed firmly into the frame and it comes out. That's not good news for the customer. So the frame is damaged. It doesn't look like it's wallowed out. So the damage isn't too bad. So let's clean this out. And I learned a trick. What we're going to do is we're going to shim this headset cup so it's a good snug fit. It's an old school fix, but it works. So let's clean this out. And now I need to pick a beverage of my choice. This is something that you can do. I'm going to choose soda water. So here we go. We're going to get our drink, chug it down. Excuse me. Alright, now we're going to get our soda can. Scissors work, a knife works. So we're going to cut this can open carefully. And then we're going to cut some of this aluminum into strips. Be sure to dispose of that properly. You don't want yourself to get cut or anybody else to get cut. So I'm going to be using the lines on the can here to cut it straight. Now, I've been doing this for 29 years, and with these old bikes, we were doing this all the time because this was a common problem. It's not a good problem, it's just common. Okay. Now we want to cut this into some long strips, and you don't have to be perfect, but you do want to try to do it in one piece. And I am definitely not perfect on this. Alright, so now that I've got my strip of aluminum here, I'm going to find my cup that I just had. I'm going to go ahead and remove that bearing. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to wrap it around the headset. And then I want to see how it's going to look. I'm just trying to judge how much I need. Okay. That's a little too much. I don't want it to go in very easily. But I do want it to start to go in. So let's wrap this up good and tight again. Remember, try to be careful. Please don't cut yourself. Okay, that's looking good. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to install, well, I guess we need to open up this headset, or not headset, the gyro bag here. Don't see these too much. Try not to damage the cable. Alright, we've got our new gyro here. Feels almost like I cut myself, but I don't see anything. Alright, so we're going to put grease on the inside of the headset here. We're going to put grease on the cup here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the shim here. Again, I'm going to put it around the headset. As tight as I can. And I'm going to attempt to get this started. If I recall correctly, back in the day, we had to get these kind of started first. And you want to do it by turning it the direction. So now that we've got our gyro plate, we've got our headset greased, or our head tube greased, and our cup greased, I've installed the shim on the cup, and I'm going to start to put this gyro on it, and we're going to carefully try to install it by rotating this the direction we want it wound. Come on. Okay. So now that's partially on, I'm going to back off a little bit. Do not cut yourself, please. And we're going to start to try to install it into the head tube area. Okay. And I'm going to kind of rotate the headset as best as I can. Okay. Alright, so now that that's partially installed, I'm going to get my press and we're going to press it in. Alright, so once you start, you can't stop. You need to go ahead and try to press it in smoothly and quickly. So I'm using my old school press for an old school bike. After you've pressed in the headset, you'll see some aluminum possibly sticking out. Alright, let's install this fork. Okay, we have our new gyro, we have our top plate here, and now we're going to install the lock nut. Alright, to install this properly, what we want to do is we want to purposely over tighten the bearings just a little bit. So I'm going to tighten this bottom one until I feel the bearings are a little chunky, just a little chunky. And they do feel a little chunky, but they turn easily. Now I'm going to start to tighten this top one down. Just until it starts making contact there. And then we're going to back off on the bottom one a little bit, and then I'm going to tighten the top one a little bit. And what we're doing is we're locking them together. Feel the bearings. Okay, that's feeling ever so slightly tight, which that's what we need because this headset is damaged, even though I did the repair job. So what I need to do is I need to tighten this top one a little bit more. So I'm going to do that by holding the fork, having the wrench on the bottom, and then I'm going to try to tighten the top. And there we go, good and snug. Bearings feel good, just a hair bit tight. You can tell because you can see it kind of coming to a stop a little bit, but that is perfect. Brakes good. Let's put the handlebars back in, stem and handlebars, and let's go to the next step. Let's get this stem installed. And with these bikes, with these quilled stems, you want it slammed all the way down. Back in the old days, people would have them higher up like that, and they'd bend all the time. Alright, I'm just going to get it relatively straight. Again, trying to be careful with the paint. We do not want to mess this up. Okay. And I'll make sure it's straight a little bit later on. Alright, so this cable that we've got here is a little bit, just a teeny bit short, in my opinion. We're going to make it a little bit longer, maybe about an inch. We don't want to make it too long. And we're going to go ahead and start to slide it into place. About 1 inch longer. Okay. You want to make sure that the Teflon liner is fully open. We're going to get a couple of ferrules out. That's the little metal pieces that go on the end of the housing. We're going to install the top one first. We're going to start to install the cable to about the length of the cable there. And then we're going to start to slide it in. Make sure it's going the proper way, which it is. Alright, now the super important thing. We need to lubricate this. We're going to be using some Tri-Flow. Put it on the cable and the housing. I always like to put a little bit of grease on the head since it slides around in the brake lever. That's one of my little tricks. Okay, lined up the ferrule, cables in. Start to installing, and there's little cable guides here, so we're wanting to line that up, and then we're going to go up and into here. I'm going to go ahead and install my other ferrule at this point. This front brake is going to be so much better. Let's just lightly tighten this. Just enough to kind of hold the cable in place. Let's see how it feels. Oh, so much better. So much quicker. Alright. You know what? Let's put the front wheel on. Alright, we got that snug. Let's tighten this up a little bit more. How tight do we want this? Not that tight because I got to make some changes to it. We need to switch these washers around so that we can get the brake pad lined up better. Now we're going to center the brake, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cheat. I'm grabbing the brake and I'm getting the back of the bolt here and I'm just turning it a little bit, and that's a quick way that you can sometimes do it, which it is working in this case. Ugh. Not quite all the way. So now I'm putting a wrench on the front. I'm trying to turn the whole thing, and I'm just being gentle with that nut on the front, because if I really start wrenching on it, what happens is I'm going to throw that adjustment out that I did on the brake. And that brake feels amazing. Oh, and it stops, which is surprising because these brakes never do work, so these clear pads might really make a huge difference. We'll find out whenever we test ride. The front brake is done. Let's get started on that rear brake. Okay, now that we've got everything lined up good, I'm going to go ahead and give it a good final tightening up, and then we can take this out for a test ride. All right. I'm so afraid of messing this thing up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that back brake works. Those clear brake pads always squeal. I'm afraid of messing this thing up. But front brakes do work. Oh my goodness. These back brakes, they work. I can hit them. I'm afraid to do tricks on these 3/8 axles, so I'm not going to do anything there. You know, it's been a while since I've been able to actually hit front brakes like that. I'll tell you what, those clear pads make a huge difference. You can't stop them from squealing, but I'll tell you, they do stop you. Oh my gosh, those brakes work. Watch out for cars. Well, another great bike here. I really love this bike. It was a pleasure to work on it. Now, if you liked this video, please leave me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to tell your friends. Check out some of the other videos on the corner of the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Okay, I think enough people think we're crazy, don't you?
Yeah.
All right. I think that's enough.